Will the Chinese be forced to sell TikTok? And speaking of TikTok, what's with all the flip-flop by Donald Trump on whether the Chinese can own an American social media platform and communication platform, which sounds like a national security threat, but I guess not to somebody like Donald Trump, who's invited the president of China, the premier of China, to come to his inauguration. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the intersection of law and politics here on Legal AF. And this is all coming to a head. There's going to be an early January before the inauguration, emergency hearing before the United States Supreme Court on whether Joe Biden and Congress's ban of forcing TikTok and its parent company, a Chinese company, ByteDance, basically controlled by the Chinese government, to sell TikTok as a subsidiary or exit the U.S. market, whether that's lawful or constitutional or not. Now we got a weird set of bedfellows here. The American Civil Liberties Union, not surprisingly, a great protector of freedom, free speech and freedom of the press, sided with TikTok, and that it is a violation of First Amendment rights for both the users of TikTok and for effectively the Chinese government who have First Amendment rights in the United States, according to the ACLU, to force them out of that business of allowing Americans through videos and TikTok 60-second videos to communicate with each other as a First Amendment platform. That was shot down by the D.C. Court of Appeals. The D.C. Court of Appeals ruled and denied an emergency application after a trial judge had already ruled that the Bidens and the House's passage or the Congress's passage of the law, which had bipartisan support to ban TikTok for the American market unless its Chinese owners sold out, that found that it was constitutional for various reasons having to do with national security and the ability to regulate around national security, even if it means putting a limit or curtailing First Amendment rights. That has now drawn the attention of the Supreme Court. Donald Trump, first term, and even when he was all the way through 2020, and even for a year or two after that, had always taken the side against the Chinese. But you see, he's decided there's a lot of money to be made in China, and a lot of money to be made in China by Republicans named Donald Trump. And so he wants to curry favor. This is my editorial comment. He wants to curry favor with the Chinese, and he doesn't want to antagonize them where he doesn't have to. So one of the ways not to antagonize them is to let them keep their prized possession of TikTok and let them have that, regardless of the Trojan horse type quality to TikTok being inside the American public square and influencing through misinformation and otherwise, and disinformation campaigns, the hearts and minds of Americans. Doesn't sound like something you'd want the Chinese to be able to do, but Donald Trump is okay with it now, having once opposed or once supported the ban. He now opposes it. Isn't that surprising? Not really. First of all, Donald Trump credits TikTok and some of the videos there and some of the influencers there, led by his son Barron, helping him win the election. Somebody told him what TikTok was, and I guess he checked it out and decided this was a way with his limited budget to overcome the Democratic advantage and reach out to voters. So he likes TikTok now. Plus, there are investors in TikTok who are investors in Donald Trump. There are investors, major investors in TikTok who own shares of this company or have made investments in this company who are supporters of Donald Trump. And I'm sure they have whispered in his ear that they would like TikTok to survive and be in America. I mean, its number one audience, number one consumer audience for TikTok is the United States of America. And that coveted, I'd say 18 to 39 age group, but I think it's lower than that. I think it's like 11. I think it's like 10 to 20, is driving the bulk of TikTok traffic. And that is where misinformation and disinformation and brainwashing campaigns also take place. We know for a fact in our American intelligence community, at least until Donald Trump gets his hands on it and dismantles it, have said out loud, because it's true, that the Russians, the Iranians, the Chinese regularly use social media and TikTok to try to influence American public opinion and to put us at each other's throats. And Donald Trump likes to benefit from that because a seething America is just the type of cauldron that Donald Trump wants in order to succeed with his fascist tendencies. There's no other way around it. A happy coherent, patriotic America is not what gets Donald Trump elected president. A seething at each other's throats, that does it. And so that's where that whole collusion came in. The argument about collusion with Russia is not that Donald Trump colluded with Russia, like cooperated and coordinated his efforts during any of these election campaigns, but rather quietly, like a Cheshire cat, the Mona Lisa smile, benefited from the chaos sowed by our enemies, including through TikTok. So Supreme Court's going to take it up. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's going to be a week or two before the inauguration. My gut is they're going to find suddenly they're going to be the big protectors of the First Amendment. We'll have to see who's going to be arguing this. It'll be the Biden administration, Solicitor Generals. It's before the inauguration. Biden administration policymakers there. And I think if I was a betting person, I would say the Supreme Court's going to strike down the law, find it unconstitutional, some sort of search and seizure without due process, that the national security interests of America can't trump the First Amendment rights, and because they're going to be big on First Amendment rights, and the Chinese can keep their toy and continue to toy with America's minds and values in the marketplace of ideas. And I think that's what the ruling is going to be. We'll continue to follow it. If you want to know more, here on Legal AF, we have a show called Unprecedented, which once a week looks at the United States Supreme Court. I do the show with Dean Dahl. It's only here on Legal AF MTN for Legal AF Midas Touch Network. So until my next reporting, this is Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.